lot of the SaaS founders I talk to know that founder-led content or personal branding on LinkedIn is the most effective way to build an audience of customers in 2024. But there's one fear that stops them every time: ruining their reputation. In other words, being cringe. And honestly, I understand it because I look around on the timeline and I see some stuff. I'm like, that guy has no business posting about that, or what is this dude talking about? So it's a valid fear, and you don't want to come across that way because that's a negative signal. So today I'm going to walk you through how the best software founders think about building an audience on social platforms in a way that maximizes distribution for their products, gets more leads coming in the door, all without sacrificing their reputation to make it happen. The first thing we need to understand here is that content performance is an equation. The equation goes like this: it's content quality multiplied by credibility equals content performance. A lot of people focus heavily on the content quality, which is obviously super important. We focus on that with all of our clients, but they forget about the credibility piece. And credibility is a multiplier. Two people can speak on the exact same topic and get wildly different results. Credibility inherently improves the content performance without changing a thing. To illustrate this, I'm going to use a pretty hyperbolic example here. So say, for example, that Sam Altman were to put out a tweet, or a LinkedIn post in this case, about AI related topics. He doesn't really have to put much effort into optimization or all the tactics and content creation and strategy because he's Sam Altman. He has inherent credibility. He could say whatever and his post would just pop off. Contrast that to some 21-year-old AI founders, their first time starting a company, and they did it because they see the trend that's happening in AI right now. And that same person puts out LinkedIn content about AI related topics. It's not going to do as well. He's going to feel like he's posting into the void. The same topic, two different people, two wildly different results. So again, credibility is a multiplier. It can drastically improve the performance of your content without changing a thing. But also, if you have no credibility at all, you can also multiply your content performance by 0. So how do you make sure you're speaking from a place of credibility when you're building your founder-led content motion on LinkedIn? There are two ways to do this. The first one is speaking from personal experiences that give you credibility with your ICP. So a great example of this would be someone like Jason Lemkin, who runs SaaSter. It's a community for SaaS founders. And before doing that, he built and sold a SaaS company called EchoSign to Adobe for like $400 million. He can talk about SaaS-related content and give advice and takes on that, and people don't question his credibility for good reason. The dude scaled and sold a company for lots of money, so he has credibility to talk about that very specific topic. Now, if I was going to go talk about how to build and scale a SaaS company, I don't know much about that outside of like using social content and how to market a company, but I don't know the ins and outs of scaling a company, getting it acquired, so I can't speak on that topic from a place of credibility. So me putting out content on LinkedIn about that wouldn't perform well at all because people would be like, what does Tommy know about scaling a SaaS company? So this usually works really well when you were your ICP at some point. This is the case for a lot of founders. A lot of founders either started a company and saw a very specific, obvious pain point that led them to start their current SaaS, or they had an agency where all of their clients were dealing with the same specific pain point, so then they started the company. So when you were your ICP at some point, you can use personal stories and anecdotes and give your takes and opinions from a place of expertise in that category, which makes it easier for people to trust you. So then they're going to engage, they're going to like, they're going to reshare your posts. Everything becomes easier when it comes to growing an audience. And you can do it without feeling like you're tricking anyone because you're speaking from your personal experience. You're not making anything up here or faking it till you make it. Now, you don't always have this luxury. Not every founder is going to have been their ICP at some point or had that very specific experience. So what do you do in that case? Another alternative for making sure you're speaking from a place of credibility is, instead of preaching like how to or prescriptive advice, more so focus on documenting the journey. This isn't a new concept. Gary Vee talks about this all the time in terms of like document, don't create. So if you're building a SaaS in an industry where you don't have that direct experience, maybe take more of a building in public or documentation approach than you would trying to be a thought leader in that industry without the experience to back it up, because that's how you come across as sort of fake and a bit sketchy, which you want to avoid. An example of a founder doing the build in public or documentation approach really well will be someone like Adam Robinson from retention.com. So Retention is a product geared towards D2C founders, but Adam doesn't really have that direct experience being a D2C founder. So instead, what he's done is he has just started documenting what he's learning building his company on LinkedIn and sharing the ins and outs of what it takes to build a company and what they're doing, why they're doing it. And it's actually performed quite well for him. And then to use myself as an example here, so with the agency, I'm speaking on B2B SaaS content. And that's an area where I have quite a bit of expertise. I have quite a bit of experience there. So I can speak from an original point of view without having to do the whole documentation thing. But if I were building a product focused towards agency owners, that might be a bit different because I don't have the experience scaling an agency. Like I'm building an agency right now, like actively doing it, but I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm still learning a ton when it comes to building repeatable processes, hiring a team for the agency, training them, all the things that come along with scaling and the things that break. I'm still learning that. So if I were to speak on that from a place of expertise, that would very obviously be fake and put myself at risk for hurting my reputation because I'm speaking from a place of lack of credibility on a topic. Okay, real quick before I get into how to actually apply this theory we're talking about, if you're enjoying this video and you're a SaaS founder who wants to learn how to use social to distribute your product, hit subscribe. I post videos like this on YouTube every single week. Okay, so how does speaking from a place of credibility actually impact your content production and strategy on a day-to-day basis? Like, what does it look like from a tactical point of view? And what it does is when you're speaking from a place of credibility, whether you're sharing your previous experiences because you were your ICP at some point, or whether you're doing some degree of documentation or some combination of both. Honestly, like again, looking at my strategy, I'm talking from a point of expertise when it comes to SaaS content strategy, but also documenting what I'm doing with the agency. Your approach can be a sort of hybrid or blend of the two. But what this does is it allows you to make sure that all of the content that you're putting out from your founder's personal brand on LinkedIn comes from your personal experiences and expertise. A lot of the hesitation founders have around personal branding and content and doing this, and why they think it's cringe and they're just hesitant to go all in on this, is because they see all the generic, like rehashed Wikipedia page type of content that hits the LinkedIn timeline. And yeah, that content isn't good. I wouldn't want to do that either. But when you're confident that you're speaking from a place of credibility on a topic that you understand at a deep level, all of that content can come from your points of view. It's no longer generic. You can get in the weeds, in the details. You can speak the specific language that your audience wants to hear and resonates with, that's going to make sure they find value from the content. Because when you make the mistake of going too generic and just trying to get eyeballs for the sake of it, you end up with lots of visibility, lots of eyeballs, but a lack of trust. And when you lack trust, you're not selling anything to anybody, which is the whole point of what we're doing here. Also, because you have credibility, a lot of your content can be story-based. And what we're seeing in the agency right now with the clients we work with, story-based content, so personal stories and anecdotes, by far the highest performing type of content that you can post on LinkedIn. The reason for this is simple. It's content that only you can post. No one else can like repurpose that or trend jack that or whatever you want to call it. It can only come from you because only you've experienced it. An example of this is we have a client that scaled an e-commerce business from $0 to $3 million a year in revenue. And now they've gone and started a SaaS company geared towards e-commerce founders. Because they have that experience of scaling a brand from nothing to multiple millions of dollars in revenue, they have so many anecdotes and war stories and original opinions based on real world experience that they can turn into LinkedIn content that then speaks to the ICP that they're trying to attract through their LinkedIn content right now. And they can do all that without feeling like they're tricking anyone because it's all coming from their lived experience. So as long as you're speaking from a place of credibility and you've done the stuff you're talking about before and you have a deep expertise in the topics that you're writing about and creating content about on your personal brand on LinkedIn, you really have nothing to worry about. Anyone who hates at that point is just a hater. And yeah, okay, if you post content consistently enough, you're gonna run into people that don't like your stuff for one reason or another. It has nothing to do with you. It's more a reflection of them. But as long as you're not like faking anything, you have nothing to worry about. Now, how do you take those insights and original stories that are coming from your lived experience and actually take that and produce content from it when you don't have a ton of time? I have a video on the channel that goes through the exact process we use to automate this process for our clients. If you want to check it out, I'll leave it right here. It's like 20-25 minutes long, walks you step by step through the entire process. So if you enjoyed this video, drop a like down below, and I'll see you in that next one where I'll show you how to automate your content creation process on LinkedIn.